Welcome to Universe Rewind, the only show where you can get quickly caught up to date with everything Co-op Universe. This rendition will be going over everything from Raw, BCW, Smackdown, and the new Saturday night's main event from their post-Extreme Rules broadcasts. And first things first, my name is Elliot James, but you know that if you're a regular listener to this show. First things first, we kick off with Raw. The show started like it typically does with the Raw GM kicking things off. I feel like if I don't say it, no one else will. James has only been in charge for a little over a month now, and every episode of Raw seems to open up the same way. He feels the need to come out, make some sort of an announcement, when there are plenty of other ways he could go about making that announcement. I may technically be working under him as lead commentator, but I don't care anymore. Raw open up in the same way every week is boring. If there's one thing that I can give him credit for, the announcement that he made on the last episode of Raw, it was definitely something he did need to address, as that announcement was about the current World Heavyweight Champion Kevin Owens. In case any of you don't know, in the span of just a few hours, Kevin injured Sami Zayn and Hideo Itami, plus he also injured Matt Hardy earlier in that month. There was also one other thing that I liked about the announcement. James kept it vague. He came out with intensity in his eyes and simply told Kevin that he wouldn't get away with his actions from the previous night. He didn't say a lot, and it definitely worked for the segment. After that, we saw Finn Balor and Zack Ryder in the parking lot. Now, Finn and Zack decided to band together to help out good buddy Kurt Hawkins ever since they did, however, they have been at each other's throats. Well, no, they haven't, but they do not like each other one bit at all. All of that being said, it was here that Finn straight up told Zack that he got what was coming to him. Zack Ryder, in all honesty, has been a bit of a dickhead for the last month, and thinking he can just hold an open challenge like he did at Extreme Rules. Finn's right. He got what was coming to him. They did end up agreeing to get on the same page, however, and try to help Kurt get in the Money in the Bank ladder match, though. Can they work together? I have no idea. Next up, we saw the Raw Women's Champion Alexa Bliss compete for the first time in a month in her first match after winning her belt by a countout. She was tasked to face the free agent Maria Kanellis. I don't know if it was a bit of ring rust or if Maria just had her number, but Alexa didn't look great in this match at all. She didn't look bad, but Maria looked a hell of a lot better. She came in and outdid Alexa tenfold when it comes to using dirty tactics. That led to her looking good against the champ. But sadly for Maria, she was finished off with the Twisted Bliss. Then we got a chance to hear from Titus Worldwide. Titus and Apollo were talking in one of the locker rooms, and they discussed why they haven't had success so far under Raw's new regime. Titus quickly said to forget about it and told Apollo to focus on their King of the Ring qualifier against one another later in the night. It was here that we also learned that Titus made some calls, and Dana Brooke would be in Apollo's corner for the match. Of course, this was very interesting because it clearly shows that Titus is less concerned with his own success and really wants Apollo to succeed. When the cameramen were done essentially eavesdropping on their conversation, we got to see another Money in the Bank qualifier. This qualifier was between Finn Balor and Heath Slater. Heath actually managed to put up a good fight, but Finn put him away with a coup de grace. Finn did leave the match busted open after being hit with 2 Impaler DDTs, though. Then we saw Ruby Riott, one of the 3 new top contenders for Alexa's title, in the face of the champ. What was very surprising about this situation, Alexa didn't have anything to say for once. Ruby simply told the truth and reminded Alexa that she is to contend with all the Riott Squad and Mickie James and Asuka, though Mickie and Asuka don't want her title. One thing that Ruby needs to remember herself is that Mickie probably wants a piece of her too. Now it's time to go over something we hinted at earlier. Well, I say hinted at, but it wasn't subtle in the slightest. It's time to talk about Apollo Crews versus Titus O'Neil in the King of the Ring. Admittedly, this King of the Ring qualifier wasn't anything special. Both guys looked good, and Apollo would go on to get a win with cruise control, so he finally started to look good. Then we were pretty much a fly on the wall for a conversation between Kurt Hawkins and the Raw GM. Kurt told him that he wanted a shot at the U.S. champion Andrade. He wanted to bring the title back to Raw. James decided to give Kurt a shot on the first episode of the returning Saturday night's main event. And finally, we get to the main event of the evening. Raw's main event was an open challenge from the B Team. They came out, once again insulted the Raw GM, though at times I can't blame them, and said they had no competition. As we know, the B Team have been preaching that sentiment since they won the gold. They truly feel like they have no competition. At first, I disagreed with them, but now that I've had time to look at it objectively, I've realized they're right. What can I say? Either way, the Ascension, Connor and Victor, showed up. they had fun running through Raw's top tag team. I'll say that. It was also announced that the Ascension, that very night, were given contracts with Raw that they signed, which takes up James's 3 free agent signing opportunities for this month. Just kidding. It doesn't. That's only 2. The Ascension are 2 people, not 3. Nonetheless, however, the Ascension truly made quick work of the B team and finished them off with the Fall of Man. But now we got to talk about Tuesday's new wrestling program, BCW. Of course, at Extreme Rules, Baron Blade announced that BCW needed to be bought out, and the WWE obliged, because of course they did. However, they let Baron stay in charge and moved it from Sundays to Tuesdays for obvious reasons. BCW may have been in a bigger venue, but their show was pretty much the same as all BCW fans would have expected. Baron made a quick announcement, and then we had 3 matches to look forward to before the end of the show. Baron actually had 2 announcements. The first was all about Chris Danger. Chris realized he could have beaten James Fatal, and again, he second-guessed himself. Baron said Chris would get another shot at Fatal's title, but only if he could defeat Cole Quinn later in the night. Baron's second announcement was about Alex Rain and Adam Daniels. Baron told us that they would compete again as soon as he left the ring. If Adam would go on to win, he'd be BCW's first ever television champion. But if Alex won, they'd have a 5th and final match, which would be for that TV title. Getting into Daniels vs. Rain, they tried to get a quick win and didn't hold anything back. Daniels tried to catch Rain off guard with a La Mahi straw, and Rain tried to roll him up with a body scissors. This match ended up being a quick, short burst of energy. At the end of the day, however, Adam was able to catch Alex off guard and get out of there with the title in hand. After that, we saw Alex's sister, Caitlin Rain, taking on Maria Kanellis, and it was at that point Baron instructed me to tell everyone that he had officially signed Maria to a BCW contract, and let me tell you, the Raw GM was not happy. During this match, we saw a completely different side to Maria. She didn't try to cheat at all. She had a straight-up match where she came up short to the rookie, though Caitlyn did nail her with a poison rana like a minute into the match, so that probably had something to do with it. Finally, we can talk about the main event, Chris Danger versus Cole Quinn. Honestly, there's not much to talk about with this match. They went back and forth for a little bit, and at one point it looked like Cole would actually win. Then the ref was accidentally knocked down, and Chris grabbed a sledgehammer and hit Cole right in the spine with it. Think Triple H circa 2002 to Shawn Michaels. Chris used that to help him win the match, and afterwards Chris laid into Cole some more with the big hammer. Now we head over to Smackdown land, and we got off to a no-nonsense start. We saw Mustafa Ali immediately show up and just take on Drew McIntyre for a spot on SmackDown's side of the King of the Ring. Mustafa did fall short to a Future Shock DDT, but he didn't look bad in defeat. Then we saw a Money in the Bank qualifier where Samoa Joe would go on to face the Big Show. Big Show didn't stand a chance, and the free agent fell to a muscle buster. Then we got the always interesting Ty Dillinger Intercontinental Championship Open Challenge. Ty grabbed a mic as he had a few words for Baron Corbin after Extreme Rules. Ty pretty much condemned Baron for doing what he did. Ty told him to answer an open challenge if he wants a shot, going as far to say he will literally face anyone and everyone for that title. Doesn't matter if it's a man, woman, or someone not even in the company, he'll face anyone. That open challenge was answered by the debuting Ricochet, however. They didn't even get to compete, though, as Corbin came out and got Dillinger DQ'd by hitting the end of days on Ricochet. After that, we had another Money in the Bank qualifier. This was once again Rey Mysterio facing off against Shelton Benjamin. They had a good back-and-forth match where Rey won. Of course, it's time to discuss the main event now. Daniel Bryan teamed up with Shinsuke Nakamura versus Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. This match was immediately set to be the biggest match on SmackDown under Tyson's regime, but sadly, it didn't pan out. It started off great, but Shinsuke started to be double-teamed by Rollins and Ambrose, which eventually led Daniel to walk out on his tag partner. Daniel walked away and Rollins pinned Nakamura after a moonsault. Before the show could go off the air, The Miz came out. The new WWE champion had some word for everybody. He was gloating, saying he did everything he said he would. He brought up how he believes SmackDown just became the A show, all because he's the new world champion. He honestly believes that he is the reason why merch will be selling, now more than ever. After a while, Randy Orton couldn't take it anymore. He slithered his way into the ring, and when Miz realized, he tried to attack him, but instead, Randy tossed him up high in the air and brought him right back down with an RKO. Saturday night's main event, the show kicked off with no BS, as Kurt Hawkins came out and was ready to get the US title back to Raw. That match didn't go to plan, however. Andrade disrespected Hawkins throughout the match, and at one point he even went as far to attack Zack Ryder for no reason. That lit a fire under Hawkins, and we saw a side of him we had never seen before. He was aggressive and started laying into the U.S. champion. Spears, vicious punches, guillotine leg drops, and more. Eventually, he was so angry, he punched Andrade right in the dick, which naturally caused a DQ. I'd imagine this won't be the last time we see Andrade and Curt Hawkins square off, though. And if this means that we're going to see like a new just straight up mean streak from Curt Hawkins, you know what? I'm down for that. But now it's time for the main event of Saturday night's main event. And this match was commentated by both the Raw and Smackdown GMs, believe it or not. And it was a fatal four-way match between a free agent and 3 Smackdown superstars. We saw Cedric Alexander versus Rusev versus Braun Strowman versus the free agent Bobby Lashley. And now I can safely say Bobby Lashley looked good from the outset. He was taking it to Strowman. Rusev looked good as well. Rusev actually got all 3 eliminations in the match, making all 3 men tap out to the accolade. Braun still looked like a monster, though. He refused to stay down, and it took consistent double teaming by Rusev and Lashley to eventually lead to his elimination. It was a really fun match to watch, and I'd recommend it. So, start of week 2, we had on Raw. We started off with a tag team King of the Ring qualifier. We had The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus, against The Club, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. Now, in the match, we saw good teamwork from both teams, and when in dire straits, Cesaro and Sheamus really had each other's backs. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, Anderson Gallows would finish him off with the Boot of Doom. Though, the dire straits I was talking about earlier was both men, Cesaro and Sheamus, that is, were hit with the Magic Killer, and immediately, as soon as Carl Anderson went for the pin, whoever's the illegal tag partner just rushed in and broke it up. So they had each other's backs. And again, good teamwork from both teams. It was a fine little match. But the Club are officially in Raw's side of the King of the Ring. So we'll see who can qualify on both Raw and SmackDown next. After that, we had an ultimatum from Kevin Owens towards the Raw GM. Kev wants to pick his opponent for Money in the Bank because quote unquote, who can reasonably face me next? Now, Raw GM James eventually agreed, but he also said that Kev will have another opponent. That opponent would end up being revealed to be Rhino, the Man Beast, ECW legend. But after that, we had Bayley and Ember Moon take on Naomi and Natalya in tag action. James was good old Teddy Tag Team Long here. And all the women looked good, but Ember Moon particularly really stood out in this match, as she did in the Women's Battle Royal at Extreme Rules. And the match ended up ending with an eclipse on Naomi. Now, Hawkins, Ryder, and Balor are up next. They were in the back in the parking lot, and they were all actually getting on the same page. But the biggest thing to know here was Curt Hawkins. Well, he pretty much stated straight up to his buddies that he is not done with Andrade Cien Almas. He's not done trying to get the U.S. title back for Monday Night Raw. But he is willing to put Andrade to the side for now, so Hawkins, Ryder, and Balor can focus on all trying to get into the Money in the Bank ladder match together. And of course, we'll see if that can happen. But after that, we had the Raw GM and Ruby Riott. They were talking to each other, and the Raw GM said that he actually stood up for the Riott Squad upon the wrath of Vince McMahon and the board of directors. And he stood up for him, and all he really said else was, Ruby, you, Liv, and Sarah, you just need to find out who's going to face Alexa Bliss first at Money in the Bank. And Ruby naturally said that they've already been thinking about that. But other than that, we have TJ Perkins versus Rhino. And let me just say, TJ Perkins, he looks super good as we near ever closer to his final matches on Raw. But eventually, Rhino finished him off with the gore. But TJ looked very good in the match. But Kevin Owens immediately came down and came out for a match with Heath Slater. Slater got one good shot in, but he was no match for the world champion Kevin Owens. Absolutely not. As much as it pains me to say that, he wasn't. And Slater was quickly defeated with a pop-up powerbomb. Nothing more, nothing less. The Riott Squad were together in the backstage area next, and they talked about, how they don't understand how people can just diss the Raw GM and say he's a bad GM and no good GM, and they defended him. So that, that naturally, that was nice to hear. And Sarah Logan also said she has a plan, but we didn't get to see what the plan was. So we'll have to wait and see. Then we had Elias versus Chris Jericho, and that was the main event. And that was the man that Kevin Owens said he wanted to face, was Chris Jericho. So, of course, James naturally made that happen. And they had a back and forth match that went 18 minutes and 40 seconds on Raw. Let that sink in. Chris Jericho, as he always does, was really getting inside the head and under the skin of Elias. And Y2J showed resilience and perseverance, as he does, kicking out of both of Elias's big finishing moves, the swinging neckbreaker and the drift away. And the ref, this is the biggest thing to come out of this match, the ref actually had to stop the match twice to check on Elias. And, okay, so here's the thing. Elias, I've gotten word now, we're at the end of the week, and I've gotten word now that Elias, well, he's not injured. He's not. But he needs to take some time off if he still wants to compete in the Money in the Bank ladder match. That's what I've been told. But Chris Jericho eventually won with the Codebreaker, and that's how Raw went off the air. Then we have BCW on Tuesday nights. We kick off the show with Adam Daniels versus Cole Quinn in a rematch. And this, of course, was for the TV title, because Adam has to defend that belt every single week. And it was a good match, but it was not better than the first, not by a long shot. Adam Daniels retained, but the best thing to come out of this match was, after the match, he went out, he picked Cole up, showed him respect, and that was great to see. Daniels showing respect to Cole Quinn. But then we had a Baron Blade promo, and that Baron addressed Chris Danger's actions from the previous week and said that he's not getting the shot at James Fatal at BCW's second pay-per-view. He's not. Unless he can beat Cole Quinn in a no disqualification match the next week. So, after that, James Fatal came out and he introduced a new BCW wrestler by the name of Jamie Fatal, who says that she is a very big fan of James Fatal, and she started to, what's a good word here? She started to, well, she named herself after James Fatal. Simple as that. But she faced Alicia Fox. James Fatal also said, by the way, that she's a lot like him. If you like him, you like her. Take that, do with that what you will. Anyway, she faced Alicia Fox. Jamie looked very good. Foxy tried to use dirty tricks. She got very cocky again, just like she did with Caitlin Rain at the Super Show. And that was it. She tried the dirty tricks. She got cocky. Jamie looked good. And she won with clarity, which is her Tiger Suplex. After that, we had T-Ice versus James Fatal, the BCW champion. And all I can say about this match was T-Ice, he served it up, but the BCW champion served it right back. T-Ice was no nonsense in the match, didn't attempt a lot of pinfalls, and he wanted to try to just do the damage and guarantee a win, but he just couldn't get the job done, and James Fatal won with closure. Simple as that. Now we get to Smackdown, baby, and before the show, Charlotte Flair is a Smackdown superstar, and, she wants a shot at Rousey's title. That's what we learned immediately. Tyson was in the parking lot before the show, and, Charlotte thanked him for giving her a contract, and said that she wanted a shot at Rousey's title, which is where we learned that next week, there is a number one contenders match to see who will face Rousey at Money in the Bank. But then Tyson walked into Becky Lynch, who also said she wants a shot, and Tyson said he would add her into the number one contenders match. Okay. Tyson walked into Nia Jax, who, well, she said she's fed up about just not being utilized on SmackDown. She said that she's the most physically imposing woman in Tyson's women's division. I mean, hell, she could probably make an argument for like all of SmackDown. I mean, who else is gonna be more physically imposing than her? Braun Strowman. He's like the only one, really. Anyway, not the point there. So there's that. And yeah, that's really it. She was just fed up, and Tyson said, look, I'm sorry, you just kind of got lost in the shuffle, which made Nia even more angry. And then he put her in the number one contenders match as well. And then he finally walked into Carmella, who was also in the back, obviously, and she said that she feels she needs another shot at Ronda. She got embarrassed, she admitted it, and she just needs another shot. And Tyson said, that's fair, and put her in the match as well. And now, and of course, Tyson has since told me that, well, you know, it's a Fatal 4-Way match between Charlotte Flair, Nia Jax, Becky Lynch, and Carmella. And winner faces Ronda Rousey at Money in the Bank. But before the show could start, Roman Reigns also came out. He had some word. He needed to address the live crowd. Luckily, the camera crew was ready, and we got to see this as the show was starting up. And he said that simply that he's done with The Miz and Jeff Hardy, and all he wants to do is he wants to have a fresh start. He wants to focus on his career, and that's it. And, you know, GM Tyson, he came out and quickly told Roman that, you know, obviously he had to make it quick because he has a lot on his plate. But he came out and just told him, you know what, you can get your fresh start, and you're going to face a man tonight, as soon as the show starts, by the name of Alexander Wolf, who, of course, is a free agent, who we would also learn, mind you, was in some sort of a way, he had something to do with, at one point, like teaming up with Killian Dane and Eric Young, who are, of course, AJ Styles attackers from Extreme Rules. So, and we have no clue if they're working with Bray Wyatt or not, though they did accompany Bray to the ring at Extreme Rules, and they did attack AJ Styles, so we assume so, but it's not been confirmed. But that happened, and Alexander Wolf, honestly, he's surprised in his Universe debut. You can tell that he's truly unhinged, but at the same time, he knows exactly what he's doing. He grabbed chairs, a sledgehammer, and the steel steps, and just threw them on the ground, and he would use them without using them, if that makes any sense. But at the end of the day, Roman would be able to get his first win in Universe, nailing Wolf with a spear. And you know that had to feel good for him, once he heard the 1, 2, 3. But then we had a champion versus champion match. Not an open challenge from Tye Dillinger, mind you. It was just champion versus champion. And it was a back and forth encounter between the Intercontinental and United States champions, Tye Dillinger and Andrade Cien Almas. Now, Andrade, he did what he does best, but Tye was able to get the victory with a perfect 10. But then we had a Saturday night's main event rematch and a King of the Ring qualifier all at the same time, and it was Braun Strowman versus Rusev. After Strowman was constantly double-teamed by the free agent Bobby Lashley and Rusev on SNME, Strowman was looking for some revenge. And these two, well, the two of them were just looking to beat the piss out of each other. One served it up, and the other served it right back. Strowman was able to kick out of a matcha kick before a count of 1. Eventually, Strowman was able to pin Rusev with his patented reverse chokeslam. Then we had Bobby Roode's last match on SmackDown and a Money in the Bank qualifier. And in Bobby Roode's last match on SmackDown, he did not go out without a fight. He had a spear, the Rude Bomb, a fisherman suplex on the floor, the Double R Spine Buster, and more. He was so close to pulling out a win, but Cedric also got much needed offense in. And Cedric was able to put him away with the lumbar check. But then we had the main event of SmackDown and another Money in the Bank qualifier. That Money in the Bank qualifier, Daniel looked really good. It was Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins, by the way. Daniel Bryan looked really good, and he utilized a lot of submissions that everyone fears. Well, fear from Daniel Bryan. And eventually, though, a weekend, and I do say weekend, and I mean it, a weekend Seth Rollins was able to catch Daniel with a superplex, turned it right into a Falcon Arrow, as he always seems to do, and then he went immediately into the curb stomp, which finished Daniel Bryan. And then after the match, Shinsuke Nakamura ran down and took out the man that walked out on him last week, Daniel Bryan. And then the show went off the air with The Miz and Jeff Hardy having some words for Randy Orton and Roman Reigns. The Miz condemned Randy Orton's RKO from the last week, and he gave Randy another shot at the WWE Championship because apparently, in his own words, he has nothing to fear. And Jeff Hardy, he thinks Roman Reigns is trying to dominate the WWE, and he's not going to allow it. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a direct quote from Jeff Hardy. So don't shoot the messenger. A direct quote from Jeff Hardy. The way I see it, you don't deserve to be on this show. You don't deserve to be in this company. You don't deserve to be in this business. Jeff definitely has a vendetta against Roman Reigns, while The Miz is just plain cocky, as he usually is. And that's how the show went off the air, but now we have Saturday night's main event, week 2. In this episode of main event, we saw the debut of a theme song for SNME. It was the song The Story by Fivefold. Smackdown and Raw's GMs also commentated a Smackdown vs. Raw match. It was the B Team, Raw's Tag Team Champions, against Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler, Smackdown's Tag Team Champions. B Team looked good, contrary to their match against the Ascension on Raw. Now, Curtis Axel got cocky when he more than likely could have pinned Drew McIntyre, but Bo was absolutely no nonsense. Dolph tried to cheap shot Bo, and Bo threw him in the ring and just dropped him with rolling the dice. But Ziggler would get the win with a sweet chin music, or super kick, which, by the way, let me know, okay? Is it only a sweet chin music when Shawn Michaels does it? Or is it a sweet chin music if they just tune up the band? Let me know. But Axel, he would end up helping Drew up, actually, and that was in a sign of respect from one team, one set of tag champions to the other, which, that was actually really nice to see. But then we had the main event of main event, and it was Adam Cole versus Kofi Kingston. Neither man signed to a brand, same with all members of their respective factions, but both GMs, they were really interested in this match. And this match was back and forth, but Kofi Kingston looked very, very good. Bobby Fish, though, he would cause very key distractions that would allow Adam Cole to eventually put Kofi away with the Panama Sunrise. So, this was a lot of wrestling to go through. I know that. But I needed to talk about 2 weeks of action. It's also on this episode of Universe Rewind where I'm going to debut my match of the week. The match of the week, in my opinion, I'm not going to do one for the first week, just for the second week. What I deem as my match of the week will be a match that I find that everyone listening to this has to watch. And my very first match of the week is Rusev versus Braun Strowman in their King of the Ring qualifier and SNME rematch on SmackDown. It was a match where two big dudes just beat the brakes off each other, and it was very enjoyable, and I absolutely recommend you checking it out. But that's my first match of the week. That was 2 weeks of Universe Rewind. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye, guys.